So thank you for your kind introduction. I am Fujitsu Ryota, a TIFF programming advisor. Thank you so much for coming today. So now I would like to briefly talk about why we chose this theme, portrayal of youth in animation. For about 10 or 15 years, around the world, there has been a really active movement of long-form animation videos with lots of various methods. And mainly up until the 90s, in Japan, among the world, Japan had been creating or producing lots and lots of long-form animes. Now, the people who were born in the 60s, with the development of TV programs, they were nurtured, and as a result, the target audience as well as the main characters, the age range was risen, and so many people started to describe about people in their 20s as their main characters, and also the target audience of the films became older. And that is greatly impacted by the manga culture, the comic culture. And because of that, for the young adult people, they were depicted in these animes, and also they became the target audience for these films. So specifically for the Japanese people, it's one of the characteristics to be featuring the younger adults. And now that we are seeing many more of such films being created throughout the world, now it's becoming quite difficult to say that this is a very Japanese-specific phenomenon. So that is why, starting from this year, we have decided to feature not only Japanese animes, but also some animes from overseas. So we have some overseas directors and producers, and would like to discuss about how we are portraying youth in animation. Now I'd like to introduce our guests. So I'd like to have some big round of applause, please. So director Mr. Filip Pošivač, he is the creator of Tony, Shelley, and the Magic Light. And also director Iwaisawa Kenji, he created Ongaku, our sound. We have director Tachikawa Yuzuru for the Blue Giant. So producer Yang Cheng, who produced Art College 1994. And also we have director Yoshihara Masayuki, who created Komada, a whiskey family. So thank you all for coming tonight. So if you could all introduce yourselves. Filip, could you start, please?
Hello, hi. Nice to meet you. Good evening. My name is Filip, and I am director and designer of film Tony, Shelley, and the Magic Light. I come from Czech Republic, and this film is a feature film for kids and for adult as well. It's shooted by technology classical stop motion animation. That's basically who I am.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Iwaisawa. I directed the film Ongaku, our sound. Tachikawa-san, please. I directed Blue Giant. I am attending a symposium for the very first time, But maybe the symposium isn't a really formal event, but I hope that I can relax and have some really good dialogues. And I hope you all would enjoy this event. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Yang, please.
大家好，我是艺术学院1994的制片人杨成啊，感谢东京电影节的邀请，非常高兴能跟大家在这里交流，谢谢。
Hello, everyone. I produced Art College 1994. I'd like to take this opportunity to converse with you all. Thank you so much. Yoshihara-san, please. I directed Komada, A Whiskey Family. So everyone, please enjoy a glass of whiskey tonight. Thank you so much. Okay, from here on, I would like to ask about each character for each film. And I'd like to begin with Yan-san. For Art College 1994, or Have a Nice Day, which was also directed by Liu Jian, they are featuring adults or younger adults. But why was that setting decided? That's the first question. And also, my second question is, are you having lots of similar animations in China?
我觉得可能主要是因为，青年人的身上它蕴含的最多的这种冲突性，一是他跟这个社会的冲突，然后第二是他跟他人的冲突，第三是更重要的是内心的冲突啊。我觉得这些冲突它构成了很强的戏剧张力啊，所以青年人是特别适合作为电影的主角的。再加上中国是一个飞速变化的一个国家啊，它也某种程度上也处在一个青春期，所以在这样的背景下，就是我觉得年轻人的故事，可以去实现导演更多的表达。
The reason why I am featuring adults is because there will be some clashes among them and society. And also, the dramatic events would take place when those young adults would be growing up into adults. And there will be some clashes with other people, clashes with society, and also clashes with themselves. These are really important, so that's why I featured adults in my 2 consecutive films. And also in China, many things are developing every day, especially for the younger people. There are many clashes, probably more so than before. So because of that, I made this as a sequel.
在2015年之前，中国动画还没有开始进入飞速发展期的时候，中国绝大部分的动画都是给小朋友看的啊，所以它的角色以儿童或者是一些小动物为主啊。那这一切其实从2015年才开始改变啊。2015年有一个标志性的动画電影叫《大圣归来》啊，其实它是面向全年龄的观众的。
2015年までは
Up until 2015, the Chinese animation was mainly for children. So kids and animals were the protagonists or the main characters. But in 2015, we had a very hero is back movie was there, which was groundbreaking. And thanks to that, in 2015, we now have more animation movies or films with an adult as the main character.
他也是中国的一个神话人物，所以这部电影虽然是面向全年龄观众的，但是他的这个主角他依然不是一个有现实感的人物在那之后很长的一段时间内，中国的动画电影大都是围绕着这个神话人物来讲述故事的。
はり今までの中国のアニメは
So the animation up until now it was more like fairy tale or not so realistic. But recently, the mainstream in China is based on more true stories or real stories.
这样的状况终于在最近2-3年有些改变所以这次来我们这个东京电影节动画单元的2部中国的动画长片不管是深海还是我们这个一首选1994它其实都是有现实感的人物它不再是不是低幼的题材，它也不是神话的题材我觉得这都体现了中国动画正在日益走向多元和丰富。
今回は特に新海も。
So Shinkai's work and my work have gotten a lot of attention. And I hope you keep enjoying Chinese animation going forward. Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Mr. Yoshihara. So Yan-san talked about clash or some inner struggle type of things. So when it comes to your program, Komada, a whiskey family, so it's talking about this woman who unexpectedly takes over the family business and this web editor or writer who keeps changing jobs frequently. I believe you probably created these characters thinking about clash or inner struggles and things. And this is an original one without anything to be based off of. So maybe you struggled with certain things, I suppose. In the past 20 years, I've joined this company called PA Works. I was mainly trying to develop more human resources or people who would come after me. So I was doing more of that. Now, the reason why I selected these professions for the two characters is that this really is a place where it takes about 3 years at least to be able to get something good or something. And then if you want to get something really good, it takes 10 years to get something as an output of your work. So there's a lot of passion and strong feelings, enthusiasm to be able to do that, especially so for young people, I would say. And for Kotaro, who is one of the main characters, he works at a web company. He writes articles, but sometimes or oftentimes it's about someone else. So how he relates with other people, that's an important part. That is why I selected these two professions. So in relation with what Yan-san has said, the female character Rui, she is dealing with something with a longer span or conflict or clash with that. And Kotaro, he probably has a conflict or struggle as to how he deals with other people. So did you have any specific struggles to depict that? I mean, screenplay-wise, or what kind of episodes or stories you want to put in? The situation often becomes like, oh, this older guy is complaining again. So you sound too preachy. That's what you mean, correct? And it is sort of a preaching or complaining, but if I look back my career of choosing this particular profession, the feeling of success or doing well, I mean, it's not that difficult to acquire that kind of sense, in my opinion. So when I try to develop younger talent, because I'm much older, I sometimes don't know what kind of words or expressions or phrases that I can use. So I was hoping to do that in this storyline instead of my real work. So what you do normally at PA Works is somewhat reflected to this, right? Then? Yes, I would say so. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to now ask Tachikawa-san. So Blue Giant has the original story, and 3 young men try to form a jazz band. When you try to depict that, what was the struggles, or how can you create like a great peak of the story? So Tamada, who started to play drums, he actually moved to Tokyo from Sendai, and he really had no passion whatsoever. He just wanted to be popular among women. He wanted to have fun in life. So he had no thoughts, or no deep thoughts really, as a college student. And this great piano player, Sawabe Yukinori, who is also handsome, he has been a good piano player since his youth. And he does have skills, but he is so stuck on winning or losing. So whenever he is playing, he tries to think about winning, or he wants to have this shortcut possibly in his life. Dai, who is the main character, he doesn't care about being popular by women or winning. He only wants to be the best saxophone player in the world. That's what he cares about. So among these people, maybe you relate to the 2 first one rather than the character who really passionately tries to be world's #1, I believe. So these 3 characters are vastly different, which is good. But what I try to be careful about is that Dai is sort of the light for the other guys. So I was hoping that he sort of shed light on these 2 other guys. So when you depict Dai, compared to the 2 others, he may not have too much struggle. So the mainstream of the movies, like the main character tends to have a struggle and then overcome that eventually. That's like a typical one. And we actually talked about whether we should include something like that in meetings. But whatever we try to make him say, he will then become not like a Dai. So meteorite is what we try to make him into, if that makes sense. So it's almost like these 3 people as one, maybe, if that makes sense. These 3 are very different, and then jazz band is like very fluid with different people coming in and out. So these 3 people then become one team for a while, but then they also go separate ways. That's so transient, and I thought that's very good. So that's, I think, is the topic of that. Thank you very much. So let's move on to Mr. Iwaisawa. It's actually also a story of 3 people forming a band, but it's not really about inner struggle. It's more about joy. So when you try to depict a character, what were you thinking about?
Well, what I had in my mind was that something that there's no clashes or struggles. Because there are so many films with lots of struggles. So I wanted to make it a story about 3 delinquent guys, and they play musical instruments for the very first time in their life. They have no knowledge about music. There was 2 basses and a drum. Only those bass notes was there. And they make some sound and they say, this is cool. We are cool. And that's how these three people go ahead, taking that momentum to the end. So there's no struggle, they just move on. And I thought that might be a very refreshing turn. Well, there is actually an original storyline. And in that storyline, there's more like emotions. For example, what Kenji is thinking is being depicted very in details. But in my film, I wanted him to be not so emotional. And at the climax, he really bursts. So you intentionally try not to put in lots of struggles. And you wanted to deviate from the norm of incorporating lots of struggles. That's right. But if we went on that route, then it wouldn't really make a very good storyline. So that's why we have another band called Fujitsu. So the blonde guy, he is called Morita, and he's in Fujitsu band. And this Morita character has lots of struggles. He's really impacted by many things. And so he has lots of ups and downs. And in the original story, he does have some emotions, but in the film, I accentuated that even more. Now, was it easier for you to depict Kenji in terms of the expressions? It was quite easy for me. So Iwaisawa-san, you started off as an indies film maker, and now you are going mainstream. No, I've always been an indies myself, and I still am. If you look at the Japanese anime industry from outside, and with the theme of the youth, do you think that there are lots of people who are older than in their puberty? Yes, because I have seen such older or younger adult generations very much in these animes. And so when I received the theme of this symposium, I thought, wow, I didn't really think about that because it was too natural. Thank you. Okay, Director Pošivač, Filip. Apart from Tony, Shelley, and the Magic Light, all of the films that we're featuring today are for the younger adults. But Tony, Shelley, and the Magic Light is about children, right? So you are featuring the main characters as children. I think you are having some huge meaning for having those children as the main characters. What was your main intention in having children?
Question. Yes, that's true that the main characters in my film are children, but when we were writing a script, we decided to have children in very special age, around 10 or 11 years old. So it's age when children become to be teenagers. It's a very special moment of life. And all the time when I was working on, I was really careful how to work with their emotions, behavior. I really tried to remember my personal experience from this time, and I think that finally this film is not only for children audience, but for younger teenagers as well, and as well for parents and adults, because there is very strong storyline about parents' relationship.
はい。
I'm not sure if I answered.
いえ、わかります。
Now, in Czech Republic, there must be many different animations. In your country, are there any animes that features the teenagers or older people older than teenagers?
You know, my country has very long animation tradition, and especially in 70s and 80s, when we were Czechoslovakia and when film industry was controlled by state and was supported by state, topic or themes about children or childhood was very strong topic, and we have from this time so many features and series animated where only children are heroes, but it changed after a couple of years, especially after Velvet Revolution and especially after 2000 year, with new generation of creators and young producers. And so we don't have too many features with teenage topics in animation, but I have to say that we have a lot of shorts, especially students from FAMU University do very high quality shorts about many topics what teenagers live. You know, it's a theme, for example, like death in family, self-acceptance, or for example, I have very interesting example of when our directress Diana Kam Van Nguyen, she is Vietnamese girl. She is the third generation of Vietnamese in Czech Republic, and she is a director of animated documentaries. So we have, and she does very interesting documentary animations about her personal topic, like you know, relationships in family or her community with another society, and those films resonates. I think that quite much in international festivals and so.
はい、はいはい。ポシバジ監督自身は
So, Philip, describing about conflicts centering on the youth, are you interested in making such films with the youth characters? Are you interested in creating films? Okay, let me do this again. So for yourself, depicting the youth generation and having those people encounter the society and describe about clashes, are you interested in making such films?
Yes, I am interested by it because you know, I have 2 kids at home, and I'm a parent, and when they was born, I practically started to live with kids. So, and you know, I'm not perfect father. Nobody is not a perfect person, and it's a challenge to be a parent. So every day, every hour, every minute, I have to think if I am good enough, and my other friends who are parents too, who have same problems or issues with kids, and it's not only from side of from parents to kids, but opposite from kids to parents. I think that it's never-ending challenge, where it's very easy to do a mistake, for example, to say something wrong, which our kids will remember forever, and once they will have maybe some trauma, maybe. So it's maybe you remember it from your childhood when your parents or some adult told you or did something wrong. I didn't mean it, because I always do the best what I am able to. But I think that all of this is very important theme to talk about it with children and across generations. So that's why it's interesting thing for me in my work, that I would like to be open-minded, and I would like to do things which does questions for the audience, and it comes other dialogues and discussions about each topic. There are a lot of things, but my experience, for example, with this film is that after screenings, kids and parents talk about storylines, and they can identify with that. And yeah, that's very good reason for me why to do it. It makes a discussion and life.
Thank you very much. So, listening to what he just said, here's what I think. So, when the world or society changes, there's a conflict with the society, and if that's like the common thing within the generation, then we have that topic of like the youth or adolescence. I think manga was very popular in the 60s in Japan, and that's what these young people read, and that's how it got developed and evolved. And that was the time when the society was moving quite rapidly, I think. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Yan, your program, Art College, 1994. So that's the time when China really changed its direction politically and started to open up. So I believe you selected that particular time frame that matches with your main topic, which is the youth or the adolescence. So if you have any particular relationship.
好的，就是这个时代，它首先是导演他刘健导演他这个上大学的一个时代然后他又是中国改革开放刚刚开始，然后西方的一些文化潮流开始冲击年轻人的这样的一个时代所以在片子里我们看到我们的主人公他其实在这样的背景下面临着非常多的困惑比如说理想跟现实的关系艺术跟生活的关系这些种种的冲突在他内心里面激起了很多的波澜我们这个电影也是围绕着他这样的一个自我寻找来展开的。
まずリュウ監督は
So director Liu went or entered the college in that year, so he felt a lot of things then, so that was put into the film. And at that time, yes, as you said, there was that policy change, so that European cultures really came in. So that is why I set up the time like that. And the main characters and the time of the film sort of reflected who I was at the time as well.
他身边还有非常多个性不一样的这些年轻人啊，在这个电影最后，他们都做出了不同的选择啊。有的人选择进入体制内啊，就是过一种比较安稳的生活啊；有人选择出国去寻求自由啊；有的人觉得艺术不重要啊，所以去做了商人所以其实他们每个人都做出了一个自己的选择啊，这是那个时代的一个普遍的一个状况啊。当然，这样的选择和这样的困惑在中国现在年轻人的身上，它依然是存在的啊。所以我们觉得它也并不只是一个怀旧电影，它有着比较当下的这种主题。
今回の作品は主人公は
So this particular film's main character ultimately selects different path at the end. So some people went towards technology, some people just became business people, so they came to different conclusions. So this time setting is the past, but the youth nowadays probably have this inner struggle and conflict just like those in 1990s. So even though it's a past story, the people now should be able to identify with that as well. In Art College 1994, because your life took different path, the relationship that was depicted came to the end in the story. So is that also the part that a lot of people feel being able to identify with?
对，因为每个人做出自己的选择，然后大家分开是一个很自然的一个过程啊。那当然就是说，最终就是经过这个岁月的这个洗礼，也许他们又渐渐拥有一些新的共识，然后他们还可以再相聚在一起很轻松的谈论过去。对。
そうですね。やはりこの映画の中で最初みんな
Yes, so in the movie, they ultimately chose their own ways and lived their lives. But like you said, when they grow older and look back, they have this memory of being able to work together, or they have this memory, or they also are able to see each other again as friends. And that's probably same for the youth these days. So I think it's relatable in that sense. I would like to ask about Iwaisawa-san. And when it comes to this relationship thing, at the end of your film, I don't know if I can even call it a relationship, but there was a little bit of an episode, right, towards the end. So, I mean, you didn't try to make it so much about relationship, right? So how much did you want to depict that? Well, that amount is like my upper limit, all I could do, I guess. I tend not to depict about a relationship because I get a little shy. The one I'm working on has a female character as well, but this female character and the male character, I'm almost determined not to depict any relationship or any love type of thing between them. I tend to feel that way because I feel like there are so many things out there that depict that relationships. So, and it's happening everywhere. So I don't have to be the one to depict that, really. That's how I feel. Aside from the next one, Hina is beautiful, is there as well, and the pilot has been released. That you have to depict the women, right? Well, that one, it's not really about relationship, but it's beyond that. Like one woman makes many men's life crazy, or she ruins their lives, sort of. So it's more than relationships, and yeah, that's what I wanted to create. So it's like this fine line between being not crazy or crazy, rather than talking about relationship. That is correct. So when you try to depict the youth or adolescence, I think relationship may be an important element as well. So Tachikawa-san, in the original Blue Giant story, it wasn't the main part of the story, but they all still talked about relationships. But in the movie, you kind of threw them away or didn't use it. Well, when it comes to the screenplay meetings, in order to depict what kind of a person Dai is, we talked about having moments where Dai is like so into this woman, but when we think about the overall balance of the movie, we had more important thing to depict, such as a relationship among these three people, so we kept omitting that. And this guy is a meteorite-like guy, and if you depict a moment that he falls into this woman, rather than people can relate to that, I think that's like half-baked relationship depiction, so I didn't do that. So it sort of steals your attention away from the main theme, or yeah, I felt there's more important thing to depict. So when it comes to other films or original pieces, I think sometimes relationship is easy to use because you sometimes saw someone for the first time and love him or her, and that tends to be a good trigger of a story sometimes. Do you have intention to use that sometimes? Well, so in terms of the main character, there's a conflict or a clash, and overcome that. I like that, but love comedy type of thing, I've never put that as the main trigger. The submarine movie, there is a little like love comedy type of scenes towards the end, but it was a while since I used that kind of scene. So, but there was Aoyama-san's intention as well, so I was the one who just implemented, but that's how I felt.
世界観に
So you were trying to be more true to what the original storyline was depicting. Now, Yoshihara-san, I have a question for you. So there's a male character and a female character, the main characters. So whether to include the love feature is my question. Because if you want to depict youth, I think if you eliminate the love relationships, then it's like false, because everyone would have that yearning as a human being. But as Tachikawa-san has just mentioned, if you include that, then it's going to kind of bug the main storyline. How are you going to work on that? Well, love relationship can be one of the triggers in having that main character change him or herself. Being in a very profound relationship, people can change. But in my film for this time, I didn't want the character to change because of the relationship. So in this film, I really didn't really describe about that relationship part. Because you are, is that because you are telling the story about your work, right? Yes. I wanted Kotaro to be able to be involved with other people through his work. And that relationship with other people is going to lead him to the success that he had envisioned. And so, rather than depicting love relationship, I thought that I should eliminate that part. Thank you. Filip, question for you. So you have Tony and Shelley, a boy and a girl. And what was the reason, why did you make Shelley a girl? What was your intention?
Actually, it was totally first idea before script. We wrote script to have a glowing boy who has a friend, and I think that it became really naturally. But it was interesting a little bit later when we created when we started to create a story. That very often, I don't know how is it here in Asia, but in Central Europe or in Czech Republic, female heroes or female characters are or were a bit more passive than the male. Usually our, for example, princess in fairy tale does nothing. She just waits when prince come, kiss her, and that's the happy end. And and it's a very strong tradition for audience. A lot of people very usually expect this type of the storyline of a development of female character. And when we started to work on this script, we decided very immediately that it's necessary to have a girl character much more proactive, much more independent. And I know it from my personal life that, for example, my wife very often makes a mirror to me, you know, and time changes very quickly, and this is, I think, the very important topic, just woman independent and rights for them. And just I wanted to have Shelley like a very proactive, active, friendly, open-minded person who in our film, in our story, she traveled a lot, she saw a lot of things, she met a lot of people, and it's in contrast with Tony, who is sick or different. His parents keep him at home, he spends his time alone, and it was very big adventure and big fun to create their relationships, because I wanted to Shelley makes his decisions and makes his point of view on life and the world around.
So hearing about that, Tony is in his room and he's creating his own world. It's a very profound world. And Shelley has a torchlight, and in a daily life, she is looking for many things, many new things. And I think those two things are, the behaviors are like a contrast to each other. Am I correct?
Yes, I think that you are correct. We created because their imagination are visualized in the film, and that's another theme in that story, that, you know, I think that kids, when they are young or they are still children, are very honest and very open-minded, and they have very strong imagination and fantasy, and they are able to project it, and they are able to live in. So that's the reason why Tony has his own world and she has flashlight, and adults can see it. Nobody other can see it, but they can see. They can see together each other fantasies, and that's the reason why they are on the one wave when they are so close to each other.
ありがとう。
Thank you so much. Now, maybe if in that fantasy world, if they cannot see that fantasy world, do you think that they enter into the new young adult phase? What do you think?
I think those kids are on the very they are on a very important moment in their life, because I think that they became teenagers. So I think if I think about their future after their film story, I think that very soon they will not use their imagination like a children fantasy, but it will change maybe like their together imagination, because they are two they are couple, and you know they live with love. And I think when you have somebody who is close to you, somebody who you like really much, you have your own world. You can see things by same eyes, and that's the metaphor, that's the symbol which we used here in that movie. But here, when we watch them, I think that we are in the end of their childhood and the beginning of teenage.
はい。ありがとう。
Thank you very much. You talked about describing imagination. Now, if you are depicting some youth who have gone above puberty, then I think that will be a very good contrast in depicting people. Now, about Art College 1994, including the characters, the pictures and the tone is very realistic.
劉監督は、
So I know you've been using that kind of style since before, but when it comes to actual production process, how would you explain that?
其实刘健导演他刚开始喜欢电影，他并不是仅限于动画电影，他就是喜欢电影。那当他想做电影的时候，所以他就是一个第一呢，他当时不是很了解整个电影的一个制作过程；第二呢，就是他可能也不太喜欢跟特别多人打交道啊。那他就想到，就是他既然是学中国画的，那他可以去把电影画出来啊。
まず劉監督が
So producer Liu, rather than just liking animation only, he likes the movie or movies just in general. So that type of realism type of movies have been made as well. At the beginning, he didn't know the movie making process at all. And he is not necessarily a people person. So with that, this is what it came out.
一些日本动画电影导演的作品的鼓励啊，比如说押井守导演，他看到就是动画电影的这个风格和类型，包括题材可以如此的多样啊，如此的用他的话说如此的酷啊，这个给他非常大的一个 鼓励他觉得做动画电影是一个非常棒的一件事情。
劉監督はもともと中国国家を勉強してまして。
Mr. Liu was learning about Chinese movies, so that's how this is. But also he was affected by a lot of Japanese films. Mamoru Oshii, the famous Japanese director. So he watched a lot of Japanese movies and saw a lot of possibilities in animation.
他的电影的题材都是相对于就是比较现实主义的吧但是呢对这样的故事来说他想表达出他特定的情绪其实动画的语言又是不可或缺的，因为大家可以看到他的画面中对一些细节的处理有非常他个人的这个风格比如说这些物体的表面的这些纹理包括他对颜色和光线的处理就这个造成了一种独特的氛围这种氛围是实拍电影是创造不出来的。
あとアニメにした理由はやはり。
The reason why we selected animation is that compared to a live action film, animation has more possibilities. For example, in this particular scene that you see, there's light, there's all the details, which would be hard in a live action film, and it's only possible in animation. So this is a simple question, but you take certain photos and videos, and sometimes you create pictures or animation off of those things.
导演的创作过程中的一个步骤当然他会对这些素材进行非常风格化的加工对我们都认为其实动画电影它在现在虽然已经有了很多年的历史但它依然是一种很年轻的艺术，它还有无限的空间有待于我们就是所有的动画人一起去探索。
そうですね。やはり今回のこの作品に関しては。
In this particular film, we actually did a lot of location hunting, so the director himself really tried hard, and even though animation has 100 years of history, it's still in its infancy compared to other industries, meaning we have a lot of possibilities for the future.
题材、主题还是风格、形式以及制作的这个方法，就是用什么形式来制作其实都还有无限的可能性就如果说最终电影一定会消亡的话我们都相信动画电影一定也是最后才会消亡的。
具体的に言うと
Specifically speaking, there are a lot of different types of possibilities. So, for example, the theme or what kind of style we show the animation in. So there's a lot of different possibilities. Animation films, I mean, if movies are to extinct from the world, I think animation movies would be the last ones to do so. So you talked about location hunting. I want to ask Yoshihara-san. So if you were to draw a conflict with the world or with the society, I mean, Japanese films are affected by a live action film, and there's this sense of lens existing. So asking for reality, and I think depicting the youth are connected somehow. What do you think? So how we depict or create the character if we are to draw the storyline, we want to make things smooth so that we pursue depicting movements better. When it comes to layout or the background, we tend to use 3D layout making. Well, depth, right? Depth is the thing in animation. How can we have that in the space? So we tend to do that. I mean, that's more animation-like. And that way, it's more believable for the audience? I believe so. So how many steps do you need to get there, for example? That type of feeling I hope to depict. I mean, it's not a live-action film, but if I could achieve that in animation, that would be great. That's what I constantly think. Tachikawa-san, so how realistic should it be? What do you think? I mean, space-wise? I think it depends on the film, but Mob Psycho movie that I created at Bonds, there's a character here and going to the next frame and he totally stood at a different space we didn't care so much about, like how many steps we didn't worry. The Blue Giant wise, we worried about that or we cared about that. Mob Psycho wise, they were not using vertical lines. They just use free-form writing. And if the line is sort of wavy, that's okay. But does that hinder us from depicting conflict? Not necessarily. I mean, what the character has, what the character wants to do, I mean, it's expressed in a live-action film. So the character and the background-wise, in terms of how many lines or how much information we have, that sometimes matter. But there are some type of films that deny that as well. I think that kind of diversity, I think, is very interesting in Japanese animation. Thank you very much. I would like to ask Iwaisawa-san. So, 音楽wise, you use rotoscope. So in terms of realistic elements, I mean, the characters' faces, you want to be more like manga, but you wanted some kind of reality as well, right? Emotion, etc. So what was the balance and what was the background?
そうですね。音楽に
Okay, for music, 音楽, I couldn't really think too much about that because I could only use rotoscoping. And when I'm doing independent filmmaking, the budget was very limited and 音楽 was really, really specific. And I'm really glad that I was able to make it, but really making a long-form film in an independent setting is a real challenge. So at that point in time, I thought my goal was to make it into a film. And in order to do that, I needed to have the live-action film as the basis for the development. But at the same time, not just simply drawing over those forms, but I did some deformation of the characters. And that was the only way at that time for me to complete my film. And after I created the film, and then after that, I did also start to explore about some of the possibilities of how to make these films. But after creating this ongaku, now I am having a new perspective when I'm critiquing some other films. Because in this film, I was able to be involved from the beginning to the end, including how I'm going to construct the layout of the frames And after that, I went into the world view of the film. Okay, now our time is very limited, so I'd like to have one comment from you all in terms of the youth. I'm sure that there are some things that you can depict, you cannot depict. What are they in terms of portraying youth? And I hope that this will be the conclusion of the film. Filip, may I have your comment? When you are using youth, what can you do and what can you not do in featuring youth in your animation?
I think that we should talk about very fragile and sometimes not so comfortable themes with teenagers and with kids. I think that it's very great if we are able to cooperate with other colleagues who are able to create very fragile and sensitive scripts. That's it. That's the value, very important for me.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Okay, Iwaisawa-san, what are the things that you can do when you portray youth, and what can you not do? Okay, what can you do and not do? The fact that describing about youth means to me that I cannot tell a lie. There needs to be, to a certain extent, the reality that would be expressed in the film. Thank you. Okay, Tachikawa-san, what's your take? Including myself, who's creating the film, and also for the audience, to a certain extent, we do tend to be limiting the age range of the audience. And so I look back on how I used to think when I was 18 years old. And sometimes my current way of making decisions would be interfering with the 18-year-old me. And so this generation gap would be included in the film, whether you like it or not. And so when I was 3 or 4 years old, the character would be having a certain types of imagination and behaviors, and those would be very difficult to be depicting in the film. Yan-san?
我可能比较乐观，我觉得对动画这个最自由的一种艺术语言来说，我觉得关于年轻人的所有的一切，不管是很具体的生活细节，还是最抽象的精神活动都一定有合适的这个动画的形式可以表达出来也是这个也是我希望看到的，希望动画越来越丰富，动画中的关于青年人的话题也越来越多元。
自分はどっちかっていうと割と楽観的。
I am quite a positive and optimistic person. So with the theme of youth, I think there's nothing that you can depict. And as I have mentioned earlier, anime has infinite possibilities compared to live-action films. So you can also describe the realistic part and also the mental part or the imagination part. Everything can be described in any types of animations. Thank you. Yoshihara-san? As Tachikawa-san had mentioned, there's an unintended generational gap could be created. And also, some of the messages might not be directly resonating. So much younger people or some people who has cleared that age range might be received well. So I think it's really challenging for you to be kind of pinpointing or really targeting a certain age range of audience in order to show your film. Okay, now I would like to open the floor for a Q&A session. If you have any questions, the audience, please raise your hand and the microphone will be coming your way.
そちらのハンチングの方。
できれば皆さんにお伺いできる。
If possible, I'd like to take answers from everyone. Now, the theme of this symposium is portrayal of youth in animation. And I think right now, all around the world, many people are thinking that animation is for kids, targeted at kids. But in terms of animation, do you all think that animation should be for kids? Is my first question. And I'd like to take questions from everyone. Okay, then let's take turns. Filip?
For your question, it's a very interesting, and you are very right. I get it too, that always people expected that animation is mainly for kids, but I don't agree. I know very well that it's not true, because animation has many genres and many themes what we can work on. And animation very often, I think, is an instrument how to talk about many different topics. And yeah, I have a lot of feedback from audience to our film that they expected really children's story where everything is colorful, happy, and positive, and time to time somebody is a little bit surprised that, oh, but you talk about things which are not so maybe nice for kids, you know, relationships or death or relationship with our space. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think that we should talk about it, and it depends of education about animation to public. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。じゃあ岩井さんか。
Thank you, Iwaisawa-san. The animes for children could actually be also amusing for adults. And I actually didn't watch so many anime, including Ghibli. And I watched them when I became a grown-up, and I thought that they were very interesting.
So I think animation may be for kids first and foremost, but adults enjoy anyways. So there are certain things that kids cannot watch, but we don't have that much border anymore. Like, this is for kids and this is for adults. Thank you very much. Tachikawa-san, what do you think? Yes, I tend to agree. So whatever generation you are, what nationality you are, I would love for my film to be watched. And that's how animation should be made in general going forward. Japanese animation has many subgenres and many things in one genre. And there's this main character goes to this outer world and do this and that. We have many of such movies, for example. Personally speaking, though, if you have different thing or a different movie for different type of people, different nationality of people. I hope that there's more diversity in the filmmaking here. Thank you. Yan-san, what do you think?
对我来说，这个答案是很确定的，就是我是觉得，就像我刚才说的，我认为动画是一种非常非常自由的艺术语言啊，它其实它肯定不算是一种，比如说电影的类型，或者说它肯定跟儿童片是更不是一回事儿啊，它是一个非常自由的艺术语言，它可以表现所有的题材啊，所有年龄段可以看的东西。就拿我本人来说。我现在已经快40岁了，那我既非常爱看，依然会去看，比如说蜡笔小新、哆啦 A 梦那我现在也当然也非常爱看像宫崎骏导演的电影、金明导演的电影包括更新的一些日本的导演的电影，就是动画电影。所以其实对我来说，动画跟这个小孩子。要爱看的东西，可能它真的是，没法直接划等号。它是一个非常丰富的一个世界。对。
やはり自分の中では多分さっきの質問。
So maybe I said similar thing to a previous question, but animation is not just for kids. I will soon be in my 40s, but for example, Crayon Shin-chan or Doraemon, I watch those things still. And director Miyazaki's films I watch as well. So and just to add some comment or just to summarize, animation is not necessarily made for kids, but by watching animation, people get younger, I think, in my opinion. Thank you. Yoshihara-san, what do you think? Well, it's a tough question. Objectively speaking, thoughts other than animation is for kids, it's something that we are currently working on. So originally, a lot of people thought animation is for kids. So that thought, I think, will remain forever. And it's difficult because there's business side of filmmaking. Then what does it mean to be for kids? So I don't want to be swayed by too much. So when we say for kids, is that definition for business or content-wise, is it for kids? I think those are two different things, right? So it's really case by case. Is that what you're saying? Right. So I have a 7-year-old child myself, and looking at that child, like, oh, you don't care about that, or you don't watch that. But I feel like that's the highlight that the producer or the director wants you to watch, but my kid doesn't. So Crayon Shin-chan-wise, Shin Gojira-wise, they just watch the Self-Defense Force of Japan scene only. So there is that kind of reality. So in order to have them watch what we want them to watch, what do we do? There's that question. Thank you very much. So the time is close, so we would like to conclude the symposium. But before that, can you just have the closing greeting or closing words? So can you start doing that from Filip?
I would like to thank you for invitation. I enjoyed very much, and I am very fine that I think that all of us are same things, and we are on one wave. That's very nice. It's very nice. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Iwaisawa-san, please. Well, I think it's a rare opportunity to talk about this kind of theme and also to be able to listen to what other directors think. So it was a very valuable opportunity, so I'm thankful. And when I think about my own filmmaking, maybe I should have deeper thoughts. I thank the audience as well for staying here for so long. Tachikawa-san, please. Also, I came to a symposium for the first time, and symposium sounds so formal, but I had fun talking about things. And we also have foreign directors here as well, so that was quite interesting for me. This is a little bit of a PR, but Blue Giant is in theaters again starting from today. We actually modified like 200 frames, and Yoshihara-san is laughing out loud. But I think this is actually the characteristics of a Japanese animation film. You modify or you change something and then put it in the theater. And we also have another film of mine that's in theater as well, so please check them out if you have an opportunity. Thank you very much. Yan-san, please.
就是最后表达一个心愿吧，就是希望大家能更多的享受动画，希望我们能够借助动画保有一颗永远年轻的心。谢谢。
最後は自分の願いをみんなにぜひ。
So this is my wish that I would like to say. Please keep enjoying animation going forward. And even as adults, you have boy or girl or child type of mind. Hopefully that's the type of life that you lead. Thank you very much. Yoshihara-san, please. Thank you very much for coming today. I enjoyed the event, and on November 10th, my movie will be released, so please check it out. Thank you very much. Thank you once again for staying here for a long time.